So this morning's teach is just an overview of the breath pattern, or and some of you may know it as Divergent, Emergent, Convergent thinking. But where the breath pattern comes from is that the art of hosting, or as the slide says there, the art of hosting conversations and work that matters. Sorry, the art of hosting and harvesting conversations and work that matters. You can see why it's called the art of hosting, because that's such a mouthful. So the art of hosting offers us all sorts of patterns and practices that actually help us come together and do really good work. You know, from the things like even us doing check-in, we're using circle work in that way, even though it's virtual virtual circle work. So, and then there are listed there a few of the other practices that we will cover some of them over the coming weeks in these Teach Tuesday sessions. So, but what we're wanting to have a look at today is the breath pattern. So, are all of you familiar, or have you heard of the breath pattern before? Yep, I've got no, Julianne. No, Nick, have you heard of it?
No.
Okay, beautiful. So basically, as you can see there, I'm going to try and use my little pointer. See here, you've sort of got that starting point.
Yeah.
So that starting point there is, you know, your business as usual. And usually when we're wanting to make decisions, quite often we'll start here at business as usual and jump straight over here to a solution. So what the breath pattern offers us is a tool or a pattern that we can use when it comes to using this space here to make good information and search for the, you know, have good conversation and make really meaningful decisions. So basically, as I said, we have the, you know, business as usual here. Then we're going to move into this phase here, which is our divergent phase, which is basically divergent. In that phase, it's like everything's on the table, every idea, everything we know about the issue, the idea, whatever, and that's both the light and the dark side. So, you know, all the good stuff that we know, maybe the challenges in that space, but it's just that initial really brainstorming of how could we potentially move from here to, you know, from business as usual to some sort of wiser action based on the information that we can gather here. So it's almost like that the divergent phase is where we really suspend judgment. So everything, every idea, no matter how crazy it seems, is on the table. Then our next phase here in the middle is the emergent phase, or as it says there, sometimes it's called the groan zone, because that can be the space where people are starting to groan. It can be the space where some people will have moved on from divergent really quickly and are like in that space of, come on, we need to make decisions. But, you know, but what we need to, sitting in that emergent space, is actually listening for all of those ideas. Where are we getting some real nuggets? Where are we seeing some ideas that are you know, moving more from that brainstorming? We start to things like, what if we did it that way? Or what could it look like if we used that model, or whatever it might be? We're starting to hear those little points where people are starting to build on what's come here, starting to think about the possibilities. What if? Who do we need? All of those sorts of things. So it can take a little while, and for some people it can be really confronting, because once they've got all the information on the table, they just want to make decisions. They just want to jump straight to the convergent space. what I love about the emergent phase is it allows for everybody to come to sort of some sort of agreement. We haven't got people trying to race forward into decision making. Once we name the emergent phase and we say to groups or communities that we work with, actually we need to be in this spot because it's where innovation starts to pop up. We start to think of, you know, we start to look at the stuff that we've discovered in the divergent phase in a different way and see how we might be able to adapt it to our community, to our family, whatever the issue is. Then we start to move into this space here. So this convergent phase, where it's actually there's that space that we start to exercise judgment. We start to develop the action plans. We start to, you know, work out who's going to do what. It's that sort of space that, you know, we've done that, the discovery, the learning, the sitting in that emergent space. Now we actually need to start to move to action so that here we come to an agreed purpose or a shared purpose moving forward. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
And Michelle, Wendy's here on the phone with us.
Fantastic. Hey, Wendy. I wasn't sure if you'd actually managed to join, or I did see your name just pop in there.
Yeah, I'm on the phone. I mean, on the using my phone as the tool.
Fabulous.
Couldn't get the computer to work, but I'm good.
Excellent, excellent. So once I finish, once we've gone through this, Wendy, we'll get you to check in. It seems counterintuitive, but it's okay. So you'll see here, this is just a bit of an overview of each of those phases. So as it says, you know, divergent phase, it is that non-linear. It needs that time of chaos, all of those ideas. It's that free for all, but it's more than just a brainstorm. It's actually being really, it's that mindful generating of ideas and things like that. As we see there, the emergent phase is that space in between, and it's where that sort of that magic starts to happen, where the different ideas start to seed, people start to have conversations about what's possible. We're also integrating all of that information that we've discovered in the divergent phase in this space so that we can take it through, as it says there, to the goal-orientated, focused, linear structure, convergent phase. And that can sometimes be a bit of a challenge for me because my brain works very non-linearly. So there's just a little drawing and another representation of the breath pattern. So as you can see, you've got your business as usual here, and then over here to your closure, that's your decision point. So we're going through each of those stages, and there are various tools that we use from the art of hosting and also from ABCD to help people move through those stages, because a lot of people will say and go, well, that's great, Michelle, but we don't want people stuck in that emergent space and never making any decisions. Because quite often, if I go back, what we quite often find is in community, and I see this over and over again, even with some of the boards that I'm involved in. So, you know, this is the start of the board meeting. This is the end of the board meeting. But what we do is we get into that divergent space, lots of ideas. What can we do? Save the world, da, da, da. We get into that groan zone going, oh my God, there's so much information. That's too hard. And the meeting finishes here. We actually don't move into this space of, we don't converge. So then we come back to our, you know, next month, the next board meeting or whatever it might be, and we start again. We do that divergent. We get into the groan zone. We go, oops, it's too hard. Meeting finishes here. And so we're a bit like Groundhog Day. So this pattern can be used for anything from project planning through to meeting planning, whether your meeting is an hour or a day, you know, if you set this as your intention to move through, you know, each of these spaces, so from Divergent into Emergent, then to Convergent, you can plan your agenda or your conference flow, your project plan, using various different tools in each of those spaces. And for me, when I use this pattern, it's when we get shit done. You know, it's when we actually go, we've got some sort of framework that helps guide our thinking. So I just wanted to put that slide up there just to give you a bit of a, you know, another way of thinking about it. So that divergent thinking asks why, and the convergent actually asks why not. So you can see there, you know, divergent thinking is about generating those lists, those open, free flow, getting diverse points of view. You know, if the people aren't in the room that need to be in the room, sometimes that's part of that divergent space as well. It's like, oh, we've forgotten to invite, or who's missing from the room, who else's ideas do we need to get in this space? And then as it says there, it's basically in that convergent thinking, we're starting to sort through the ideas, summarising, coming to agreements, working on our action plans, those sorts of things. And in the art of hosting, it can be part of a bigger process. So as you see there, that's the 8 breaths. So you'll see within inside this main big breath, we've got little steps along the way, which can actually be really great when it's project planning. So, you know, if you're calling people together, you're using a breath there, bringing together a core team to clarify. So each of those steps, and I'm not going to go into it in detail because you can find a little bit more information on the 8 breaths of process design, either in our guidebook or via the Art of Hosting website.